The Bounty Hunters. Hey everyone, this is Scaly on an all-call. We've discovered that there are potentially 3 ancient adepts on the world, so everyone's getting a warning. We're also about to start scanning the planet to try and find large underground caverns. So the ship is going to be out of position and not just straight above the spaceport. Are there any objections or overrides for this plan? What do we know about these adepts? Pukey asks all business. Their names and faces were redacted, all insect descent. One an Earthany, one a Drun, and one a Snikt. The details of their capture admitted to taking their families hostage to ensure compliance and the planet used as containment. So while nothing was directly said about their threat level, the implications, fairly up there. In other words, don't provoke. And if you have to fight them knife in the dark or sniping with tritite, Pukey says, do we have any information beyond the Empire being unable to directly fight these 3 or species? Everything else was redacted so long ago the telltale signs that lead to truth are gone. Sorry, Litha adds. All right. Everyone make sure your knives are ready and keep your eyes open. As I said, mind your manners and pay attention. Pukey orders. You're clear to scan the planet, however I want you to also look for highly unusual axiom constructs. I have a suspicion. Of? Litha prompts him. Well, there has been a hidden society on this planet that uses axiom for its communication, at least partially. There are lost adepts in a weird effect that's somehow stealing things away to an unknown place. All of this reeks like adept interference. But if one of them is doing all that, then there's likely something tied off into the axiom or made into a semi-automated technique. People always look for the easiest way to do things. So if this is something done by a small handful of people, they've probably found a way to make it easier, which leaves traces. Good point. Will you want to be part of this scanning, Dad? I've got paperwork to go through. There's a lot of official forms due to the first contact scenario. However, from the looks on their faces, expect our temporary team members up there shortly, which shouldn't be a problem so long as they don't push random buttons, Pukey says, but the last bit is particularly pointed. This the on button? Hey, you're taking a look over the whole planet, right? Do you think we could have a quick stop at home during it? Sis been stuck in her current outfit for weeks now. We have multiple cars and shuttles. Can't you just ask someone to pilot you down? Slytherin asks. Well, yeah, but it'd be faster if the ship we're launching from is a lot closer, right? I suppose, but we're going from high to low orbit, so it's not going to be a level where you can just jump out, Scaly says. Not without Halo training. There is no jumping out of this ship without proper training or flight capabilities, people. Pukey agrees, and there's some laughter and a few mocking calls from around the network. Yes, haha, people, but I'd rather not have one of you slimming down in the more kinetic ways. Because that first step is a doozy, Airfarce jokes, and there's some chuckling. All right, haha, I'm leaving the call now. I've got more work to do, Pukey says, and there's a slight chime from his end. All right, we're beginning our scan. It's mostly automated, but will take a while. Feel free to ring us up in the bridge if you need anything. Nothing. A big steaming pile of nothing. The only underground caverns were right on the green belts, ostensibly the only places the shimmering sand events did not hit. Hell, most of those caverns were flooded, although several did have very weird axiom signatures in them. It was decided to not scan them again in case they were important to the children and the off chance of the scan disrupting something. Sally and Susie Lou had shown up during the scans and then left when they saw how boring it would actually be, so it was just Litha and Slytherin on the bridge. Where is it all? Slytherin asks himself, even as the squads on the ground trade out for the ones in the ship. They still have a fair amount of time until the Imperial Army arrives, but everyone wants at least some time outside and in the sun. I don't know. I looked through the reports. I heard nothing of truly massive axiom effects, so I assumed that nothing was brought off planet. Litha considers. She had been certain there had been some hidden hangar just under a rock formation somewhere, in either a barely surviving community or a mass tomb with a pile of old metal vaguely stacked up like a starship. Granted, it was a bit of a relief to not find a mass grave, but the mystery is refusing to be penetrated. What about the nearby planets and their moons? Airless, well, as airless as any stellar body is. If you know what you're doing, you can crack a lot of gas out of the stone. But that's useless to people without an initial reserve and advanced tools, Litha says, considering. Oh, I was so sure. This is absurd. If there was a sudden concentration of metals in this system, it would have been noticed. Mining companies scan and rescan sectors like this all the time. The idea that so much metal can just up and vanish is absurd. I'm sorry, Slytherin. I wanted to help, but this was just a waste of time. No, I don't think it was. What was that quote about that Holmes character? Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever is left, no matter how unlikely, must be true. Slytherin asks. Not quite the quote, but the same message. Litha confirms as she shifts out of her control seat, while the ship moves back to its parallel orbit to the spaceport. It looks like the mystery of the Shining Sands is going to keep being one for a little while longer. Longer! Longer! Slytherin suddenly exclaims with his left arm up to the elbow in a small pocket on his robe. Of course! You just told me that the metal is not on the planet, and not on any of the surrounding planets or their moons. Getting them to those places without a ship takes a huge amount of axiom, meaning something that people notice. But they didn't, which means that it's likely still on the planet, but hidden in a way that scanners can't find them. There are a few ways to get around those kinds of scans, though. One of them is to cover it in something, but we used a penetrating scan designed for that, so that's not it. Another is this. He sticks his arm back into the small pocket, and again it sinks into his elbow. Expanded space. One of the most common types of axiom tricks. Even people who barely understand how to use it make use of expanded space techniques, Slytherin says as he considers. Of course, this doesn't make the search easier, it makes it harder. Now it all can potentially fit into an area the size of my eye, especially if those 3 adepts are involved. But, there's something else. Something I should have seen or tried already, but I can't think of it. Well, if something is taken, you need a purpose behind it. We already looked at that, so escape routes? How many people it would take to organize? Some other direction? Direction? Wait, I need to get back to the planning room and check on the directions all the different storms came from. I was only checking where and when places were hit, but storms have direction as well. They come from somewhere. I was focused so much on the shimmering sand, I completely blanked on it coming out from a storm. And if the initial axiom effect happens during the storm or causes the storm, meaning it happens beforehand, then it would not be registered as being part of the shimmering sands event. Meaning that the storm and sands could be basically the later parts of a slowly activating axiom effect, Slytherin says before he thinks that through a bit more in size, which again widens the search area, and if we're looking for an expanded space, we're basically down to looking for a specific grain of sand in a solar system. That's a huge ask. No, it doesn't, Litha says as she checks something. More modern mining scans can pierce folded space. It's much slower, much more methodical. We also would need to upgrade our sensors. We have powerful ones, but they're not sophisticated in the way we need. What about drone work? Upgrading the chain breaker is a big ask, but what kind of specs is needed on a pair of drones? And this type of sensor, can it detect expanded spaces and then scan to see what's in them? Use the first to scan an area, and then if any seem interesting, we then bring the drone closer to scan properly? Possibly. I can get you schematics. Right. And as they're rolling off a printer, I can check to see the directions all the storms blew in from, Slytherin says before nodding and then rushing off without another word. Litha leans over to watch him go with a smile on her face. He's very hard to discourage. Instead of merely bringing him the scanner blueprints, she adds them to the printer of Slytherin's favorite arsenal and sets it to print off a quintet before joining him. She then slithers up to spy on Slytherin, working away tracing lines all over the globe with a look of wonder all over his face. Cindy joins her in watching him with the infant slug girl. He's doing very well, Cindy gushes. He is. He's so very clever and doesn't grow discouraged in the slightest. He just starts thinking about the next big thing to do. Litha preens. Such a good boy. The good boy can hear you both, Slytherin says, turning and looking directly at them both. They duck out of sight, and he snorts in amusement. He turns back to the globe and nods. All right, then. Time to see if this was a waste of time or not. He has the indicating the direction the storms blew in from extended backwards over the globe, and then he looks over the rotating planet. What the? They're all intersecting in straight lines. Looking at the planet with the northern pole being the uppermost point, every single intersection between the storm direction line up in 5 straight rows of 8 with the rightmost row having a 9th at the top. Holy shit! He starts tapping away and quickly has the next several potential locations marked to complete the pattern and make it into 45 locations total. Okay, we have 4 places that if a settlement springs up, could provoke a Shimmering Sands event. How? Why? No idea, but I found a pattern. The defining pattern. Maybe, maybe not, but a pattern nonetheless. One so straight-lined it has to be artificial. Not that there was much chance in this being some out-of-control natural phenomenon, but nice to have that eliminated. Now, what do I put in these potential sites? A tracking beacon, scanner, and broadcaster? Maybe with instructions on it in case there's someone alive on the other side and we can coordinate with them? Yes, I found a place I can poke this strange thing. So it's time to pick up that stick and poke. He then starts leaving the room and pauses to check both directions to see the hallway empty. All right then. I suppose it's just a girl thing we're doing. He pulls out his communicator and it doesn't take longer than a moment for an answer. Something up? Pukey asks. Yes, Suggs. Hey Dad, I just had a bit of a breakthrough and I need to test it. I need to use a lot of material to potentially provoke and then track and scan an active Shimmering Sands event. How much are we talking? A ton of material, tops. Nothing irreplaceable or too expensive beyond the stuff you'd find in a couple of communicators. All right, so long as you register everything you use, go right ahead. Just remember that even with good stores, we don't have unlimited ones, so nothing over the top. I'm not making a weapon, I'm making a beacon. If all goes well, we'll even get it back, which is all the more reason to be ready to lose it forever. If it goes well, great, but if you're ready to lose it, then it's not too bad when you do. Right, yeah, I know, thanks Dad. Call one of us up if you need some help. Will do.